So, the German MiG-21-SPS. You might have just bought this thing thinking, well, it's just a PFM with R60s. The PFM is pretty good at 9.3. How bad can this thing be? Well, the answer to that is very. Well, in reality, the longer answer to that is still very, but it's a little bit more nuanced. It's not a bad plane per se, and in terms of a grinding perspective, it's actually pretty decent. You get the two R60s, you can get in pretty quickly, you can turn pretty fast, get 1 or 2 kills without having to use your brain. Which is great, if you're just trying to look for a grinding thing. Problem is, most planes have flares, R60s are, well, when they see flares they kinda go and you don't want that, and then you have the water pistol as backup, the GSH-23, which isn't the most, well, suitable for jet combat. It does damage when you hit it, but well, that's the ballistic properties of a water pistol, as the name implies. The damage isn't really the problem. It's like a water pistol but filled with something like sulfuric acid. Pretty hard to hit someone with, beyond 50 meters, but if you do manage to hit them, you will probably burn their eyes out of their sockets, which is pretty effective when it goes combat wise. But for real, at 10.0 this thing is alright. The only problem you're going to really face is, if you are new to the game, if you are new to jet combat, this thing is the opposite of forgiving. R60s go for flares. You don't have flares unless you turn in the gun. Well, I don't like flying around with my dick in my hand, which is what I call flying around without a gun. Not a fun time. You are going to need it because the R60s are not the most reliable. You then have a plane that feels kind of weird. It's not necessarily, it doesn't feel bad to fly, but it feels kind of awkward to aim, and that's not taking into account that the gun is shit. That's imagining it has a Vulcan. The rudder is kind of weird, the roll is kind of weird, it turns extremely quickly, or at least it feels that way, but in reality you're just pulling a lot of AOA and you're not actually turning that much, and you're bleeding a lot of speed doing so. You don't have the best acceleration, and the fact you don't have flares at 10.0 is a massive problem. In itself is not a massive problem. The massive problem stems from the fact that you will be at 10.3 and higher very, very often. And even all of this wouldn't necessarily be a problem either. The real problem kind of stems from the fact that this happens just a little bit too often. The teams are horrible. And I'm not saying the fact that this guy is really to blame. I kind of flew through his guns the second he shot. He shouldn't have shot, I shouldn't have flown through there. Probably more my fault than his. But not to say, the teams are the opposite of reliable, just like the plane. And this is what happens when you add a premium plane that's very unforgiving, especially if you are new, and then fill the entire team with them. The SPS spam died down extremely fast. Normally you see these premium planes, they kind of stay around for a while. This thing, after a week I barely saw any of them anymore. All I did was see them die. I saw a few with flares, which is pretty funny, because then you can literally just dance in front of them and they can't do anything until they run out of fuel or energy or whatever, and then you just gun them down, which is hilarious to do, but in reality you're not gonna be seeing a lot anymore, and that's mainly because this thing is just not in the best kind of state right now. And something like this, the FHU, it's not something you want to fight. You are faster than it, but if they aren't gonna go vertical like that and stall themselves out, you are not going to kill them. I then get the Harrier on the runway, he camps for a little bit and then he runs away. And this is going to be another example of these teams. I come in just a little bit from the side, I want to come in from an off angle, I want to get some kills in, and I want to make sure that my team actually wins this one. So I'm looking around, I'm trying to see who I want to attack here, and there's just too many people. And when there are that many people confined in a very small area, more likely than not, it's because your team just collapsed in on itself and you are now one of the last players left. And again, normally going head on with people at top tier isn't really that problematic. You can just gun them down if they don't dodge. And I'm doing the same here with these 2 kills with, well, you're looking at it. I get 2 crits in, I get a kill in, and it's all fine and dandy. The problem is, that's not reliable. I've done that once. What you just saw, I did that once, getting 2 crits in 2 head-ons. I normally don't hit very much with this thing, as you saw with the Mirage clip. Yes, it was one of my earlier games. Sometimes I can get some good shots off, but in general I'm just not very reliable with this thing. And once you have the carry, you get the real problem. You only got 2 missiles, they're not very reliable. You got a gun, it's very bad in the handle. And if you get something like an F4C on your 6, there we go, the F4C on our 6, and then an AVA that shoots a missile from very long away, and I need to dodge that missile, keep a very close eye on that AIM-9G. Yeah, I did the same thing. I didn't look at the F4C's missile. I was so busy trying to dodge the AIM-9G that I kind of thought, well, the AIM-9E isn't gonna hit me, and then I rolled directly into it. There you go. Yeah, that's it's a good gameplay tip, isn't it? And you might wonder, well, you're showing you all dying and being stupid and being bad. Isn't it just your problem and not the plane's? Or maybe it is. I don't know. It definitely feels like I got out of it what I could. If I had a little bit better aim with this thing, would be great. But in general, I got out of it what I could. And I'm happy with that, because then I know that I can share my opinion somewhat confidently without having the feeling that I am saying something inherently wrong. And as I was saying with the carrying, so you have a plane that has a gun that's extremely bad at high speed. Your plane wants to get out of high speed very quickly. The energy it gets back is limited, because if you turn at all, if you move at all, you will burn a lot of it very quickly as well. And this kind of puts you in a state where you will always be going slow in like a 2v1. And if you are facing something like an F104, F8Us, F8Es, F4Cs, basically everything that can keep up with you and actually has good acceleration, you're gonna have a bad time if they dodge the head-ons, because they can keep pushing head-ons with you, because your turning circle will be much wider than them if you try to maintain your speed. And you should do that, because if you don't, they will just stall you out and you die as well. You don't really have a choice here. You are forced to do very wide turns in the carry sense, like right here. I don't really have to worry about it, because I can be very aggressive. I have a lot of teammates around me, and then this thing isn't as bad. The problem is, the plane is exceptionally bad at carrying, and you will have to carry very often. If you get down here to a 9.3 match, a 9.0 match, and you have to carry, not that much of a problem. But you do have to still keep in mind the enemy team will have planes like F4Cs, F104s. They will run you down and they will push you slow. And once they do push you slow, basically anything can kill you. Right now with the F5Cs flying around again as well because of the new sail, not very enjoyable. It is very painful, in fact, because the F5C has a very good retention at around Mach 0.9, Mach 1, and it's just not fun to fight. Sure, you will outrun it, but that's about all you will outdo it in. You have better missiles, but it's not going to hit him because he has a boatload of flares. And all in all, it's just, I don't recommend it. I just don't recommend it. Do I recommend the premium G91? Also no. Do I recommend the premium Seahawk at 8.0? Also no. I don't recommend you to buy high tier premium jets unless you are familiar with said jet. Say you fly the PFM, you really like it, like you love the plane, all power to you. Buy this thing, you're probably going to enjoy it, but do keep in mind the BR will be significantly higher and you will fight people with radar missiles, extremely strong heat seekers, and you will bleed so much speed trying to dodge those guys that, well, very likely you are just going to shit the bed. That's just how it is. So, make your own decision if you want to buy this or not. You probably already have if you want it, and if you haven't, you probably won't, or you're waiting for my review, but I suspect that the amount of people that do that isn't very high. You probably kind of stumbled across it. And talking about that fact, I have been thinking. And it's about, should I, on the release, make a shorter video, say about 5 to 10 minutes, and quickly talk about all these planes that have been added. Just like I have done here, but a little bit shorter, more confined, more a summary of all the new air vehicles, whether you should buy them, whether you should grind them, and then all in one thing. Of course, a very big patch might be 15 minutes, but you get the idea. So instead of getting a very in-depth review, because with this thing I don't want to fly it for that much, I don't want to get an in-depth review on a plane like this, because it will paint a bad picture, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to sell something to someone that, well, let's just put it this way, very often I say something, and then they will say, Yeah, but you're showing this on the screen. Well, yes, but also keep in mind the people I'm fighting. I'm cherry picking my footage here, and some matchups are just very favorable, which is all great and dandy. But just to put it out there, I want to put like 1 to 2 minute segments per vehicle, talk about it very quickly, what it's good at, what it's bad at, and then show you what it can and can't do very quickly, and planes that I don't have to fly then, because some planes, like say you get the F5A, say we get a plane like another F104A, I don't have to get new footage and I can very quickly run through them, because I already know those planes. If you get a new MiG-23 and the only difference is it will have different missiles, I don't have to fly it and I don't have to get footage, making it so that I can get one of those videos out probably day 1 if I do have the time, probably day 2 if there's a lot of new planes that aren't very comparable to something else, like a Viggen, like a Draken, those kind of one-off planes that you can't really compare to anything else. Of course I will still take those out because I need to form an opinion on them. But in general, I'm trying to look at day 1, maybe day 2, if I do have the time, because sometimes a patch drops in the middle of one of the busiest weeks in my work schedule, and then I'm just not able to, just like this patch. That's why it took like 4 days for me to bring out the MiG-23 MLD video. I would have done that day 1 if I had the time, but I simply didn't have time to play until day 3, which is why it took a while. So yeah, let me know what you think of that kind of thing. I'm just gonna be commentating over the last bit of gameplay here, and I'm gonna be showing you what this plane quote unquote can do, but keep in mind it's YouTube, everything looks better than it actually is, and I did die a fair share to just stupid stuff like that F4C. I'm looking at someone else, I'm getting gunned down, I get SRAM'd because I don't have goddamn flares, and SRAM, it's my accent, I know, is very annoying to deal with in this thing, because if you dodge too hard you will go slow and that Harrier will out accelerate you. He can lock you in the head on if you break off. If you don't break off, he will spray 400 Aidens at you, not very favorable. If you then dodge his guns, guess what he can do? He can lock you on the quote unquote side aspect, and by the time that missile is in range, which will be around 500 meters ish from the direct front, even if you have your afterburner off, it will retrack you and it will blow you up. So if you go head on with a Harrier and you know it's a GL1, make sure to not afterburn in the merge, because he will absolutely murder you, and you don't want that. Well, some people like that kind of stuff, but I take it most of the people that watch my videos are here to try to stay alive a little bit longer, not die a little bit quicker. So right here I'm running down the F1, he's kind of out of fuel, so I'm just gonna speed this up and I'm gonna show you the end here, and it's not so much a good kill, but I want to show it regardless because it has something to take away from it. I'm not talking about the F1, by the way. So we're going to be looking at a G91YS, and he is going to fight the fight somewhat correctly. And what I want to show you is doing the right thing at the wrong moment, and I will just show you what I mean. This guy, what he's doing right now is going straight up. He's already slower than me. He's going over me, then he flies straight for a little bit, giving me a 6 instantly, just like that. And then he starts going up already. I am faster than this guy right now. I have more AOA than this guy. And I have position. And I have the speed to use the position. I got another 6. He's very slow. I crit him. And then the R60 is just there to finish him off. He was the last guy. I don't need the other missile. And the real thing to take away from this is you need to execute your plan properly. And you need to use your plane properly. That guy was probably pretty new at the YS, nothing wrong with that, and it's very hard to read energy states, especially in a head-on, but when you have a plane that goes Mach 1.1-ish, 1.05, it's very fast, especially for the BR, and when you see someone cruising on the deck and they are just zooming around, assume they are going at top speed at most of the time. When you see someone close in very slowly, that will probably indicate that they are pretty slow as well, and you can do what he did. The problem with it is, if he had just gone a little bit faster, if he was a little bit higher, and if he had kept pulling at the start, it would have denied me the position on his 6. It would have made me bleed a lot of speed trying to get a shot off. And he would have been in a much better position to actually shoot me down. Now I'm not actually entirely confident about the G91YS versus the MiG-21-SPS matchup. But the way he did it he would have lost it even if it was something like a saber. Because the way he is just giving me a 6 instantly, while I have the energy to stay on him and I have the energy to get a shot off. Because keep in mind, planes with very high AOA, as long as they have speed, they will get their guns on you. Because they will break out of the turn, they will break out of the circle and kind of just shoot straight up. Just a little bit like a lot of planes do with bad desync, where the shells come out of the plane at an angle. You don't want that to happen. So when you allow a plane on your 6 that's faster than you, that also either turns better or has more AOA, it's a very dangerous game you are playing. But something like the MiG-21, the SPS and the MiG-21 and stuff like that, you can kind of get away with it because this thing is pretty awkward to aim and it is pretty weird. But when you are going for 500 and I'm only 500 meters behind you and I'm still going 500 myself and I'm staying near you, you are playing a very dangerous game. What you want to do is make them bleed their speed, force it a very low speed fight. But the problem with that is you can't really do that in a team sense. In a team sense, what you want to do is keep it fast and make it so that he can't hit you. That way it buys the most amount of time for your teammate to come in and actually shoot him down. Because trying to reverse something like this is also very dangerous, because it can, well, kind of just auto air brake you by simply touching any flight controls. And reversing something that's slower than you is very dangerous, and then once he throttles up he will likely out accelerate you. And of course I'm talking about matchups like the F-86F and planes like that, the stuff at 9.0, 9.3, or if you're fighting PFM, something like F9F. It's not very fun to fight in those kind of planes, and this thing becomes very dominant. At 10.0 however, it's unfortunately not so much the case. Now here you go, you can witness me do an epic dogfight with this Yak-90, and the real reason it took me so long is I kind of want to play with my food. Secondly, I'm not gonna die to a prop in a plane like this. Well, I probably will end up dying to a prop once, but not in a 1v1 like this. It's simply not going to happen, and if it does, you can probably make a meme out of it and cancel me on Twitter. But let's just hope that's not gonna happen anytime soon, or hope I change my name so no one actually knows it's me. But for real, I'm actually showing you the fight versus this prop, because the prop is flying it correctly. Now he's still a massive dumbass for taking this thing into jet BRs. But funny meme, I guess, give me some Reddit karma. He shouldn't do that, but whatever. He's doing the right thing. He's not falling into my energy traps. Of course I'm energy trapping him regardless, because it's 1, 2v1, and 2, I just have too much power for him to do anything. But he is not actually going up for me. He's trying to keep his speed, and he's trying to keep his speed towards me. And that's the way you fly it in an F-86F. Sadly, I actually had to show you that with some dumbass in a prop. And that's all I have. See ya.